So you say your work in progress has a bloody crime scene. How will your characters clean that up? Literally, clean it up. Off the carpet, the tile, the wood floor, the walls, you name it. That's what we're talking about today. This is the FightWrite podcast. I am your host, Carla Hoke. On my blog, FightWrite, FightWrite.net, which is up for an award from Christian Authors Network. Found that out this morning. I'm very thankful for that, and I will let you know how that goes. Anywho, on FightWrite.net, we are in a series on crime scenes, and the most recent was the biohazard of having dead bodies around. Definitely check that out, because in some ways it's not as bad as you think. And in other ways, it is way worse than you think. Our last podcast was about stages of decomposition, and there is a reference section in my book for that as well. FightWrite, How to Write Believable Fight Scenes, is out with Writer's Digest. You can get it just about anywhere, hard copy or digital, and it is slowly creeping into libraries, so you can check it out literally. Today, in that same vein, we are looking at cleaning up after a dead body. I sat down with David Morales at Biotech Crime and Trauma Scene Cleaning here in the greater Houston area and asked him a few questions about his job. Listen in. Okay, guys, I am here today with David Morales from Biotech. How are you today, David?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Okay, first of all, what happened with the Astros?
I'd rather not discuss that.
Okay, I told you that your services may be needed down at the juice box.
Oh, man, you're telling me.
Oh, bless their hearts. Okay, first of all, tell people what Biotech does. Tell us where you're located.
Okay,
first.
So my office is actually located in the Sugar Land area, but we service greater Houston.
Okay.
All the way up north, south, wherever there's an incident. You know, our company is a crime and trauma scene cleanup company. And what we do is we handle any biohazard type scenes, whether there's blood, bodily fluids, suicides, unattended deaths, industrial accidents, rodent droppings, fecal matter, hoarding, anything that's biohazard to other humans is when we come in.
Okay. Explain to people how you are different from CSI. When I asked authors what questions they had for Biotech, by the way, let me spell that, Biotechs. If people wanted to look you up, how could they find you, first of all?
We are on Facebook and Instagram. It's at Biotech South Houston. And then, of course, if you just Google, Biotech Houston, then obviously we would come up on there as well.
Okay. There seemed to be confusion between cleanup folks like you and CSI. So explain to people how you are different.
Yeah, we get that a lot. CSI is more the crime scene itself. As far as how it happened, what happened, stuff like that. They don't necessarily do any of the cleanup. Our company comes in after, the body has been removed or after the police are actually done with their scene. They're done investigating, they're done, doing whatever they got to do. And then our job is to remediate, whether it's the house, the apartment, office building, automobile, whatever the case is, and get it back to a place where it's safe for people to get back into the house or whatever it may be. We don't do any sort of investigating. Our job is strictly just to clean up. It's not.
And you're a private entity, correct? You're a private business.
Correct.
Who calls you to the scene?
Most of the time it falls on the lap of the actual families, homeowners, property managers. We get a lot of calls from, when we deal with automobiles, we get a lot of calls from collision centers. Mm-hmm. They're basically told, hey, if the police or whoever they're dealing with doesn't know of a company, they're basically told, Google.
Oh, okay. So they do guide people towards you. They don't just say, "Look, good luck with this."
Yeah, they do. And they don't. I'm going to be completely honest with you. They do and they don't. A lot of times we'll hear that, this police officer gave us your number, or this police officer told us to Google, and then other times, they say, well, we just had to look it up because we didn't know what to do.
Right. Basically. Okay. So okay, I do have a little bit of experience, unfortunately and fortunately. The bad thing is when people do meet you, it's just not under great circumstances. But I will say that when a neighbor of mine had to use a cleanup service like yours, they were the nicest people.
Yeah.
And the research I've done, it seems like you guys actually try to be especially nice, especially to the people involved in the
With
situation.
without a doubt. I mean, that is our first and foremost. That is our number one goal.
That is awesome.
I, like you, experienced it firsthand.
Right.
I have a cousin that committed suicide, and we needed a service to obviously handle it. That's how I got into this business, because the first company that my family called, that we talked to, were so uncompassionate, if that's a word, right?
Yeah.
It was strictly, it's going to cost you this amount of money. That's what it is.
Oh my gosh.
Take it or leave it. And it just rubbed me the wrong way, like you would not believe. My uncle actually walked into the room and found his firstborn son.
Oh.
And then for them to just basically like put it on the back burner, like it's no big deal. Hey, this is what we do. It is what it is. And because at the end of the day, companies, it has to get done, and without a doubt, it has to get done. So I think they saw it as, well, we're going to do it anyway. So here's what it is.
Yeah.
So I make it my number one goal. And you don't know how many times, we've finished and people have just given us hugs, embraced us.
Good.
Just complete, thank you. So like, I couldn't have done this without you type stuff. And that's good. That's what helps me personally. That's what helps me get through every job, knowing that, we're here to help these people.
If they say to you, like for the, example, your uncle, that's a horrible situation, and I could see that he might not want to walk back into the room. Can he say, look, I left my cell phone on the dresser in this room. Will you please walk in there and get it for me? Is that something that you guys will do?
That's something that I offer to every single person I come across. Because there are, there's keys, there's phones, there's computers, there's purses, whatever the case may be. I try for them to not see it at all, basically. Right. I don't want anybody to go into that room, because it's an emotional strain. It's something that you're never going to unsee.
Right.
And there's also, it's not just that too. I don't want any sort of cross contamination. I don't want anybody to get sick or anything of that nature. But yeah, I will go fetch whatever it is I need to fetch, for sure.
Okay. If it is like a public scene, do you clean up scenes that are like on the road?
No, we do not.
Who takes care of that?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. It really, really depends on what's going on. But I have heard stories of the fire truck just washing it away type stuff. And that's not good, because it still goes somewhere,
Right.
When it's anything like on a highway or something like that, they don't call anybody out. No.
Okay. If it is like in an abandoned apartment, let's say that you come across a drug scene where there's vagrants or whatever that have passed away, who pays you in that situation? Are you
so in that situation, that particular situation, somebody owns that building.
Oh, okay. Good point.
Somebody, yeah. So whoever owns that building would have to obviously pay to have it removed. Speaking about payment, every situation is a little different. Homeowners insurance actually helps out with our services as well, depending on the situation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you could actually file it under your homeowners insurance, automobile insurance, rental insurance. If you rent an apartment, you have rental insurance. Okay. If an apartment complex is forced to have to pay for it, they typically just pay out of their pocket, because, they would file a claim if it's like a fire, flood, stuff like that. Their deductibles are usually really, really high. So that's the only time they would file a claim. But in that situation that you mentioned, they would probably just pay out of their pocket. Yeah.
And you are not called to the scene until the body has been removed, correct?
I've been to the scene before. We've obviously never been able to start, or never been able to, get in the house until the scene is cleared. Correct. I honestly, I don't think I could do it if I had to actually see a body, if that makes sense.
Yes, it absolutely does make sense. Okay, let's go through your protocol with a crime scene from the time you walk in the door. Um, let's say that you have you have a bloody mess. You have a bloody mess on the den floor, right? How do you start?
So basically, we would get the phone call, and I take every single phone call. So job related, I would take every single phone call. I'm one-on-one with the person. I would show up to their house, and then what I like to do first is I like to assess it on my own. I don't want to take them in there with me, and
Right.
99% of the time they don't want to go in there. So, I walk into a job, I kind of assess it. The main things I like to look for are, what it is, if it's, blood or fluids or whatever the case may be, what area of the house is in. Is it a bed, a couch, the floor, is the floor tile, is the floor carpet, is wooden floors, whatever the case may be. I like to assess all these things, because then I'm kind of putting a timeline together in my head.
Right.
As far as, okay, it's probably going to take me, this amount of time to do this amount of time to do that. And you always have to prepare yourself for things that kind of pop up out of nowhere. We might look at a floor and say, oh, okay, I think we're just going to pull up that floor. I don't think it's underneath. And then you pull it up and it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You've always got to prepare yourself for the what ifs.
Right.
Once I kind of get a timeline, I kind of assess, okay, this is how long it's going to take me. Then I'll have a conversation with the family, and I'll talk to them about exactly what needs to be done, what needs to be removed, what is salvageable. And then just express to them that we typically get started right then and there. These are jobs that you don't want to wait. The longer you do wait, the worse it tends to get. So we like to go ahead and get started immediately. That I would typically, if when I talk to people on the phone, I kind of get an idea of what happened and what's going on, and then I can kind of schedule my guys to, okay, guys, meet me here. I'm going to be there at 9. Meet me there at 9:30.
Right.
And that way they can start to kind of get changed and get ready and get all the tools loaded up and everything. And then we'll go ahead and start, I will speak to the customer or the family or whatever the case may be about whether it's insurance, or if there is no insurance, about, private pay or stuff like that. There's the state of Texas also has a Texas compensation form where the state of Texas it's called Victims of Crime.
Uh-huh.
They'll actually pay up to $2,250 for our services as well.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that helps a lot too. So that's another route that we can also go, just depending. Every situation is 100% different. So yeah, then we would get started, and then it might be a couple hours, might be a couple days. It depends on what it is.
What are you wearing while you're doing this?
So we are fully dressed in Tyvek suits. I mean, head to toe.
Explain what that is.
So if you look at they're kind of like, if you look at like hazmat suits type, but not as bulky, basically.
Okay.
So with the hood, we got full face respirators on, gloves, boots. Okay. I mean, we have got to basically prepare ourselves for worst possible case scenario. We treat every situation like there is the most infectious disease possible in that area. So that's what we wear, and that's. Whether some places don't always have AC, and it's hot.
I was just about to ask. This is Houston. How hot do you get?
Yes. The summers can get really, really bad. And those suits are like wearing, basically like wearing a trash bag.
Right.
So yeah, it's a good workout. It's we're up and down and moving stuff around. So we definitely get a workout in for sure.
And the types of gloves you wear would protect you from needles, etc.
Correct.
Okay.
We have different types, obviously, depending on, what situation we're in, but yes.
Okay. You mentioned that some things are salvageable. In my experience with the crime scene cleaner folks, they cut out all the drywall, they cut out flooring, literally removed it from the townhouse. So tell me some things that are salvageable.
When it comes to whether it's a glass table or some furniture, it really just depends on the type type of material, obviously, because there are a lot of things that are porous. We've done the same thing where we've cut, I've been on a second floor and I've been able to see through the floor because we've had to cut, down to the living room because we've had to cut through the wood and stuff. But yeah, our biggest thing, we just want to remove, anything that could possibly have, biohazard on it. The last thing we want to do is be called back.
Yeah.
And say, hey, it's still, there's still some blood or still whatever. And that's, knock on wood, but that is just the ultimate no.
So if it does soak into a wood floor, there's no pulling it out of that wood. You literally have to cut the wood out.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you do if you are in the process of cleaning a crime scene and you find what you think might be evidence?
So it's happened before. We've done a couple jobs where the police or whatnot said, hey, what, we couldn't find a shell casing. If you guys find it,
Oh, okay.
obviously let us know. So in that situation, we're working, and it was actually in a hotel, and we're working, and it was behind one of the little end tables or whatever. So we saw it. We basically just backed off, alerted the hotel, and then they called the police, and we basically took a 30-minute break.
Okay. So you don't touch it at all.
No, we don't touch it at all. We left it on the floor. They came, they took pictures, they removed it, and then we went back to work. So yeah, we don't mess with anything like that. Typically they'll let us know beforehand if they're missing something, or if we come, if they tell us, hey, if we come across this, let us know. But we've never just, stumbled upon it without knowing firsthand.
Because of the suits you wear, is smell an issue? Do you smell the room?
Yes. You do, once, and it might sound bad, but once you smell, an unattended death or
Right.
it's just one of those things where you don't unsmell it. But as far as with our respirators, it's definitely something that you'll know for forever. With our respirators on, you don't though. Like we like if we have to wear the full face respirators, then no, you don't smell it. They got the little cartridges, and you won't smell it. They're very high powered.
Okay. If you're just walking in to assess things, are you in full hazmat gear?
I am not. So typically what I would do is I would have some gloves. I have another like smaller mask that I would put on, and boots and stuff like that. I mean, we still take precautions, but I will not be in full gear until we start working. Yeah, that's just to assess. I can get in real quick. It usually takes me about 5 or 10 minutes just to kind of assess the situation, without having to obviously dive in there.
Right.
And I can get right back out, and then we can get started.
Writers asked, I got a lot of questions about certain categories. And one of them, time and again, is how do you deal with the smell? And secondly, on TV, where you see the crime scene people put the Vick's Vapo-Rub underneath their nose, is that really a thing? Does that even work?
That's a thing.
Wow. Okay.
I've the smell is one of those things. When I first started this business, I was so worried about that. I didn't know if I could do that part. I still remember my first scene, my first job, and we was in an apartment complex, and a guy had passed away. He'd been there for like a week before anybody found him.
Oh my
and
gosh.
it was on the second floor, and we were at the steps on the bottom, and you could already smell it. So my heart was just racing like you couldn't believe, right? Because it's just, oh my gosh. But the smells, it just doesn't bother me. Now the only thing that does bother me sometimes is when it comes to like fecal matter.
Yeah.
That I tend to let the other guys handle that part of it. But when it comes to blood and unattended deaths and stuff like that, it just doesn't bother me. I don't know. It just doesn't.
The smell of death is a tough one to explain.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really something I personally can't. I think it kind of has a horrible sweet smell in a way. Could you describe that horrible smell?
I think it has to me, it's a sour, like I can always smell like the iron in the blood.
Ooh, okay.
And then it's just like a sour, bitter kind of smell to me. I mean, like you said, it's definitely, but once you smell it one time,
right,
you always know what it is. I mean,
Does it smell different than a dead animal?
Yes.
It
100%.
does.
It
Okay.
does.
Is it stronger or is it more metallic?
Sometimes, to be honest with you, I think the animals smell worse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but I personally think the animals smell worse.
Have you ever gotten sick?
I've never gotten sick. No.
Okay. Have any of your workers had an issue with that?
No, if they did.
Wow.
They didn't tell me, but
That
yeah.
is impressive.
Yeah.
What kind of training do you put your workers through before you
So
start this?
what we do when we bring someone on, all of our employees are members of the Houston Fire Department. Okay.
Really?
Yeah. So they're all firefighters.
Wow. Okay.
So they are somewhat, there's a couple of them that are paramedics. I mean, so they are accustomed to these types of situations. They
Okay.
see it all the time. And what we do when we bring them in is it's like a week-long training class, right? That we bring them in. And it's basically kind of the ins and outs, but we also get them certified through OSHA.
Okay.
Right. So OSHA has these regulations for bloodborne pathogens that they have to take, and it's videos and then some, like tests that they have to take, and then they're actually certified through OSHA.
Okay.
And then we basically, as far as as far as the cleaning part, all that stuff is on the job type training. It's we've tried it before. It's extremely hard to kind of simulate
Yeah, I can imagine.
a mock scene or something of that nature. You know what I mean? So
Right.
a lot of it is basically on the job type training. And from that point of view.
Okay, the first thing I got a lot of questions about the smell. The
Mhm.
second most popular question, and I think some people asked it as a joke, but when you see it 10 times, you realize it's not a joke. If you have a stain in your carpet at home, how do you get it out? What do you use to remove carpet stains? But I
So
guess you remove the carpet, don't you?
we take the carpet completely.
There you go.
We take the carpet.
Oh, there you go. You absolutely beat that question.
Yeah, we take the carpet because you just never know what's underneath it.
Yeah.
There's times where I've seen where it's a small little thing of blood, and then you lift up the carpet on the bottom of it. There's this huge, ring around
Yeah.
where it's see through and kind of. So we just take it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if I were going to start working for you tomorrow, what is some advice you would give me?
I think the biggest thing is just to expect the unexpected.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah. Every job is 100% different from the previous one.
Yeah.
You've just got to, get your emotions in check and just prepare mentally. It's a mental game with us because the cleaning part's the easy part. That's the easy part. It's showing up to someone's house at 10 o'clock at night, and the father is, and the mother are there crying because their 16-year-old son just committed suicide. It's you're working upstairs and the family is downstairs, and you can just hear them crying as you're cleaning up after their kid, or it's losing your father to cancer or whatever the case is, and the whole entire family is in the house while you're in another room, or stuff like that. That's the hard part, is just kind of making sure your emotions are in check.
Have you ever felt unsafe while you were cleaning up?
No, we always work in pairs at the least. There's at least two people, but we're always really, really aware of our surroundings. We go into a house, we lock all the doors behind us. We've never, thank God, fortunately, we've never been, in a situation where we just felt unsafe.
Okay, good. Well, we are kind of running out of time. Can I have you back on the show to answer some writers' questions?
100%.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much, David. Mm-hmm. Tell us one more time the company you work for and where people can find you on social media.
Yes, we are Biotech Crime and Trauma Scene Cleaning, and you could find us at Biotech South Houston on Facebook and Instagram.
Thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it so much.
Yes, thank you.
I really appreciate David and the folks at Biotech for letting me interview them. When I called and explained to the person who answered the phone what I was doing, she just said, "Oh, okay, well, I'll get you in touch with him," as if it was not strange in any way. But you know, when you are a crime and trauma scene cleaner, I guess not much surprises you anymore. Okay, you heard David. He's happy to come back on the podcast. So in our next episode, we will be answering some writers' questions. Until then, folks, be sure to check out Biotech's BIOTECHS South Houston, I believe it is, on Facebook and Instagram. No, they don't post pictures of gross trauma scenes, okay? I personally was disappointed by that, but you know, you gotta understand. Until the next round at the Fight Right podcast, get blood on your pages.